hero is a savior of humanity, but every hero has their time. They can be betrayed at any moment, even shunned by everyone, especially if their power becomes too overwhelming. After saving the world, the hero hopes to reincarnate and live a more peaceful life in a different era. A noble child named Alan was expelled by his family after 15 years. Although they had taken care of him, he was deemed untalented and a disgrace to the family name. His father decided to cast him out. Instead of feeling sad, Alan felt relieved. He was finally free from the burdensome noble family. Now, he had the chance to seek the peaceful life he had long dreamed of. Alan's first destination was the eastern border region. He believed no one would monitor him there, allowing him to live without the troubles of his previous life. However, during his journey, he encountered two women struggling against monsters. One of them was Reese, the princess of the Adwastella kingdom, who had often defended him from bad talk about him during noble gatherings. Initially, Alan was reluctant to use his old powers, but seeing Reese in danger, he felt compelled to act. He immediately jumped into the fight, defeating the monsters with his swordsmanship. In addition, he healed Beatrice, Reese's bodyguard, and repaired their broken carriage. Reese was astonished by Alan's abilities and even more surprised to hear that he had been expelled by his family. Despite this, she had no intention of taking advantage of Alan because she valued friendship above all. Coincidentally, they were also heading to the eastern border, so Alan decided to join their journey. Not long after, they arrived at a village. Although it was still daylight, the village appeared deserted as if no one lived there. After investigating, they discovered that the villagers had gathered due to an issue involving a hero. Reese recognized the person, Akira, the hero of this era. During lunch, Akira explained that while walking toward the village, he discovered that a child was to be sacrificed to a dragon. Upon learning this, Akira immediately went to the village to seek clarification, but the village chief rejected him and asked him not to interfere. Akira was forced to hide the child in a cave while devising a solution to the problem. Despite the villagers having no hope of being freed from the dragon's threat, Akira, accompanied by Reese and Beatrice, planned to head to the dragon's lair to confront it directly. Alan wasn't the type to let his friends face danger alone. To ensure their safety, he decided to join the mission. Before setting out, Akira asked the others to take a detour while he took the main route to reach the lair first. Akira intended to fight the dragon alone before the others arrived. As a hero, Akira's power was equivalent to that of thousands of soldiers. However, it turned out that her strength wasn't enough to defeat the ancient dragon inhabiting the area. Fortunately, Alan arrived just in time. Using the full extent of his true hero's power, Alan managed to corner the dragon and defeat it with ease. After the dragon was defeated, Alan woke up to find Reese sitting beside him, while Akira was busy practicing swordsmanship with Beatrice. Earlier, Alan had witnessed Reese perfectly healing their wounds. Realizing this, Reese immediately apologized for keeping her talent as a healer referred to as Saint a secret from Alan. Sometime later, they parted ways with Akira. Although they offered him a ride to the nearest village, Akira chose to walk, feeling uncomfortable with traveling by carriage. Elsewhere, the head of the Wellfest family received news that the red dragon had been slain. However, This did not bring them joy. They had hoped the hero would lose, but the opposite had occurred. Despite this setback, the Westfeldt family remained determined to target the hero and his companions. As long as they were still within the borderlands, the Westfeldt family would seize any opportunity to eliminate them. To replace his damaged sword, Rise suggested that Alan meet a blacksmith she knew. Although blacksmiths were rare, her friend's skills were exceptional. However, since the blacksmith's location was far away, they stopped along the way to camp in the forest.
Parallel paradox. Create fire.
During their journey, Alan recalled that he and Reese had once been engaged, though the engagement had been annulled. Despite this, their relationship remained as close as it had been. Spending time alone with her made Alan nostalgic about the first time they met. He began to wonder if the peaceful life he longed for would feel like this. The next day, they arrived at the home of Noelle, Reese's blacksmith friend. However, upon entering the house, they found Noelle lying on the floor. This alarmed Reese, who feared her friend had died, but it turned out she was merely exhausted from overwork. With healing magic, Noelle was quickly restored to full health.
それとこれとは別よ。手が回らない。もう剣を持ってるじゃない。
いや、これは折れちゃってて。
手腕もないのに、私の剣を持とうなんて。完全に死んでる。どうすればこんな使い方が。打ってあげる。本当ですか？その前に一つ聞かせて。剣を超える剣に興味はある。
聖剣を超える。
Noelle changed his mind and agreed to repair the sword, even vowing to forge a weapon superior to the sacred sword wielded by the hero. However, during the crafting process, Noelle asked them to leave so they wouldn't disrupt her work. Alan and the others decided to look for an inn. Later that afternoon, Reese suggested that Alan visit the Adventurers Guild to sell the dragon materials, as they could fetch a high price. Following her advice, Alan went to the guild. While the staff examined the materials to verify their authenticity, followers of the Westfeldt family approached him, curious to know whether Alan had defeated the dragon on his own. Without hesitation, Alan admitted that he had been assisted by the hero. The next day, they returned to Noelle's house, only to find her asleep again after working tirelessly. However, Noelle had successfully forged the best sword she had ever created. To test its durability, Noelle asked Alan to try the sword in her presence. They went to the forest to test the sword, where Alan encountered someone he recognized from the guild. This individual continued to observe Alan's every move.
あの人。
私たちのことを嗅ぎ回っている様子で。
目的は何？
彼らをつけなさい。あれ。
When Alan began using the newly forged sword, Noelle inspected it with his special ability and suggested that Alan test it against an even stronger monster. As they ventured deeper into the forest, they unexpectedly encountered a Fenrir, a monster that had once killed Vanessa, Noelle's beloved mentor. Seeing the monster, Noelle panicked and was overwhelmed by memories of the tragic event. She then pleaded with Alan to defeat it. Alan refused Noelle's request, claiming that Fenrir was not a threat because it only slept in the forest and never approached the settlement. Moreover, Alan firmly stated that he had no intention of avenging Noelle's grudge. Noelle, carried away by her emotions, resolved to attack the monster alone with a sword she had forged herself. However, Alan warned him that the sword would not be able to harm the monster because Noelle's current abilities were still insufficient to create something comparable to a holy sword. After warning Noelle, Alan immediately led her. Upon arriving in the city, he discussed the matter with Reese. Setting aside the issue of Fenrir, Alan asked Reese whether her business in the city was finished. He suspected that they hadn't come to the city merely to craft a sword for him. Finally, Reese revealed her true purpose. She was currently searching for clues related to a murder case involving demons. Elsewhere, Horace ordered Milan, one of his subordinates, to kill Reese and Beatrice. Although Milan didn't want to obey, a slavery spell compelled her to comply. Back at home, Noelle decided to forge a sword strong enough to wound Fenrir to meet Alan's expectations. This time, he was truly serious about his work. While forging the sword, painful memories surfaced in her mind. Back then, Horace had suddenly appeared at Vanessa's house and ordered Fenrir to attack her. His reason was that Vanessa possessed a dangerous talent, enabling her to create weapons stronger than the Holy Sword. The next day, Noelle woke up feeling refreshed, though unaware that Alan had secretly healed her with his abilities. That night, Noelle returned to the forest to exact revenge on Fenrir. However, just as she was about to attack, Fenrir woke up and easily deflected his assault. Beyond its sharp instincts, this was also possible because Horace was there, waiting for Noelle's arrival with plans to eliminate him. Before ordering Fenrir to attack Noelle, Horace offered her a deal to become one of his subordinates. He was intrigued by Noelle's eyes, which held a rare divine gift. However, Noelle firmly refused, declaring she'd rather die than live as Horace's slave. Hearing this, Horace immediately commanded Fenrir to kill her. Just as Fenrir was about to strike, Alan appeared and saved Noelle. Witnessing Alan's unexpected strength, Horace didn't dare fight him and quickly fled. Meanwhile, Milan's plan to kill Reese was thwarted by Beatrice after the effects of the slavery spell dissipated.
助立ちの必要は失敗したみたいだよ。
見えすいた嘘。ですが、この場を私が支配なければ、これに傷一つつけることはできないのですからな。お食らい尽くすのです。
Noelle decided to take Milan to his home since she had nowhere else to go.
しかし、またリーズ様の時は私がとっ捕まえて、ビシッと叱りつけてやるから。少々強く言い過ぎたか。
一件落着。
That night, Alan intended to pursue Horace, who had escaped. At the same time, Horace was still in shock at the power Alan had displayed. However, a demon suddenly appeared and killed him instantly. When Alan arrived, it seemed he was slightly too late. At the Westfeldt residence, a new plan was forming to eliminate an archbishop.
私にお任せを。
あるようだな。
もちろんです。私は
A few years earlier, Lisi and her uncle were attacked by a horde of monsters. The attack resulted in the deaths of many soldiers, and her uncle vanished without a trace. In the present day, Alan and his friends arrive at a village preparing for a festival. Amid the festivities, Lisi asks the villagers if they know anyone wearing silver armor, as she heard rumors of someone like that living in the area. However, the villagers claim they do not know and apologize for being unable to help. Before arriving at the village, Noelle had shared information about a ghost rumored to appear there. The ghost was said to be a member of the royal family harboring a grudge against their own kin. It was described as wearing blood-stained silver armor. Upon hearing this, Lisi decided to visit the village, suspecting the person in silver armor might be her missing uncle. When they investigated the village cemetery, a mysterious man appeared and suggested they stay at the village chief's house. That night, Lisi dreamt of her missing uncle. In the dream, she chased him to the cemetery and suddenly found herself surrounded by the undead. Hearing her screaming in her sleep, Alan immediately woke her up.
先生大丈夫
The following night, the villagers began their festival. During the festivities, they dressed as ghosts and danced around a bonfire. As a knight, Beatrice mentioned that such activities were considered taboo but said she couldn't intervene as the festival didn't harm anyone. In the middle of the festival, the mysterious man who had approached them earlier invited them to join the dance. While dancing, Lisi saw someone resembling her uncle walking toward the forest. Without hesitation, she followed him. Upon getting closer, she confirmed it was indeed her uncle.
おじさま。
When Lisi asked what he had been doing all this time, her uncle revealed he held a grudge against the royal family. He had been hiding to prepare for his revenge. He also explained that the king was targeting talented individuals like Lisi, as their extraordinary abilities could threaten any kingdom. The king had decided to eliminate them all. After explaining this, her uncle invited her to join him in fighting the king. However, when Lisi refused, he did not hesitate to attack her. Observing the situation in the village, Alan quickly arrived to assist Lisi. He realized that Lisi's uncle was already dead, and his body was being controlled by a cursed spell. To prevent further harm, Alan broke the curse and freed the uncle's soul.
アレンだとリーズの元婚約者の出来損ないじゃんアルフレッドさんは返してもらおうかスペルブレイク
おじさまに何を。
待てリーズ
Before departing, Lisa's uncle shared that he despised the people near the royal family who had falsely accused him of usurping the throne. He asked Alan to always protect Lisi and challenged him to a duel to see if he was worthy of safeguarding her, whom he considered his own child.
教えてくれないか
アレン君。
大切な娘を僕に任せるか確かめるのは当然のことだよ聡明なご騎士として父としてさあ今宵は高齢祭ある一夜限りの夢吹きの
お父様はとっても守ってくれる。
ああいつか俺よりも守ろう恋させてすまないだがお前は本当の娘のよう呼ばれその喜びを顔に出さないよどれ
私は幸せ者です。お父様。
ってなぜ聖者に紛れて死人が暮らしていようとこの村は平穏悪魔であっても悪魔だから全員悪い人今となっては無意味なことみたいだけどねあなたはいいさ我らの力の前にワールドエンド
The uncle's spirit thanked them before departing, allowing him and the other victims to complete their journeys. Alan and his friends resumed their adventure, now knowing that Brett, Alan's younger sibling, was the mastermind behind everything.
リーズ様に寄り添います。ありがとう。
ブレットか首から上しか首から上が失われていたと
When their mother passed away, Brad's younger brother, Alan, was consumed by deep fear. At the same time, their father's attitude changed drastically, and he often gazed at them with cold eyes. Moreover, Brad was frequently compared to Alan, who was more independent. Even though Alan was always there to comfort him, Brad couldn't accept it because he felt Alan didn't truly understand his feelings. One day, when Brad met his father, he saw him looking extremely satisfied as his plan had succeeded. His father then revealed that he was about to start a rebellion against the country. Shortly afterward, the people were shocked by news of the return of General Syrier, who was thought to have died. This news caused widespread anxiety and speculation about its truth. As Commander Edward reminded his deputy not to be easily swayed by such rumors, he suspected that the news was deliberately spread by someone with a hidden agenda. He urged everyone to stay focused on their tasks. While walking through an alley, a bishop suddenly appeared before Edward. Without preamble, the bishop asked him to follow, saying there was something important to show him. Though his deputy advised against it, Edward decided to follow the bishop in pursuit of new information. When they arrived at a building, the bishop suddenly left Edward. Moments later, Edward was attacked from behind by an old comrade, Westfeldt, who laughed mockingly. Craig then revealed that the bishop was under his control.
間抜けなやつめ。
何？
どういうことだ。懐かしいな。だがそんな世界に用はない。
Meanwhile, Brad was traveling toward the city. A cloaked figure appeared before him, informing him that the preparations were complete. The only obstacle left was Edward. However, Brad claimed that he had already used his powers to control the bishop and lure Edward. Despite Edward's troublesome talents, Brad was confident the plan would succeed because his father was overseeing it personally. Elsewhere, Akira was trapped by a group of demons. They threatened to detonate a seal placed on a child with him. If the seal exploded, Akira would have only two choices: leave the child behind or die in the blast.
あの村のに命を燃料に爆発する術式がな、爆発するだろう。てめえら。そのとも子供を見捨てて逃げるか。
逃げるかよ。
Meanwhile, Clark, walking through the city, was suddenly intercepted by a mysterious cloaked man. The man explained the ongoing plan. Shortly thereafter, the bishop and General Syrier appeared before the public under the influence of Brad's marionette-like power. They delivered shocking information, declaring that the gods had lied. According to them, humans were merely slaves exploited by the gods through their talents. To break free, they urged people to abandon their talents and take control of their futures. As confusion spread among the people, Brad appeared to provide further explanations while showcasing a monster known as a magical life form. He declared it to be a powerful asset, equivalent to the strength of 10,000 soldiers. With such creatures, humanity would no longer need to rely on their talents. Brad also tried to persuade everyone that demons, long regarded as evil, were willing to lend their power to replace human talents. Though his claims were hard to believe, the presence of prominent figures supporting Brad swayed many people to his side.
先ほど皆さんにお話ししたことをあってのもの。国が隠していた真実はギフトに代わる新しい力を貸してくれると。
タノスと手を取り合い、自分の望む生き方を考えましょう。与えろ。お前らには僕が必要なんだ。人間なんだ。
In another battle, Craig finally managed to corner Edward. Edward realized that Craig's power level had far surpassed his own. Meanwhile, Captain Clark and his troops struggled against demons, barely surviving thanks to Beatrice's timely intervention.
民の盾。
愚か者どもめ。
消えた。一方的にやられている。このままでは気を抜くな。
おやおや、その傷ではついえようというのにまだ歯向かうか。
それが。
かな。
確かにそれは否定できない。私も含め。
Edward collapsed in front of Craig. Shortly after, a cloaked figure approached him, shocking Edward when he realized it was Akira, who had escaped the demon attack. Akira expressed his gratitude to Alan, who had uncovered this plan. Meanwhile, as Brad believed he had won over everyone's hearts, Alan suddenly appeared before him, much to Brad's irritation and frustration. The scene transitions to where Beatrice is seen luring the demon into revealing its evil plans. Mylan uses her skill and then activates a magical device directly connected to Alan. Together, they bait the demon into exposing its entire plan. Feeling unbeatable, the demon arrogantly declares that those with strong talents are seen as obstacles that must be eliminated. This statement awakens the townsfolk to the realization that they have been deceived. Once the demon's plans are exposed, Brad loses his patience and immediately sends his pawns to attack Alan. However, Alan effortlessly nullifies their controlling abilities. When Brad attempts to use magical threads against him, Alan quickly seizes the threads and strikes Brad with full force. Meanwhile, Beatrice and Mylan work together against the demon. Thanks to their excellent coordination, they manage to corner their enemy and defeat it before it escapes. However, the chaos caused by Brad is far from over. Noel arrives, bringing the necessary weapons. Beatrice calls on the knights to continue fighting against the remaining magical creatures. Elsewhere, Edward and Akira struggle against Westfeldt. Over time, Westfeldt's power grows stronger, and his movements become unpredictable. He is now shrouded in a black aura filled with rage. Westfeldt still mourns his wife's death, feeling he has been toyed with by the gods. His talent never matched reality. Westfeldt's wife was gifted with the talent of a holy mother, destined to give birth to a hero. Yet, in reality, she bore an ordinary child with no talent. Additionally, Westfeldt had the ability to foresee the future, but even with countless attempts, he failed to save his wife from death. Akira and Edward try to calm him, but Westfeldt, consumed by demonic power, does not listen. Without hesitation, he strikes Edward, despite their long-standing friendship.
の灯火と引き換えに
でも食らって目を覚まし当然
つぶた悪魔の力か使えばお前がお前でなくなってしまう
おっさん
バレる怒りこれはお前の友よすまなかったくれ心は誰にも理解などされん
最後まであんたのことを思って
なんだと言うんだ勇者よ
When Westfeldt prepares to attack again, Alan intervenes and blocks the assault. Alan's presence further fuels Westfeldt's rage. Among all the obstacles in his way, he never expected his own son to stand against him.
バカな俺に軽いものではないはず貴様は
知っての通りだよ自分で
分かってるではないか
行かない人たちがいるんだよきっと母さんも
貴様が
Filled with fury, Westfeldt calls Alan a failed creation. The darkness emanating from Westfeldt allows Alan to see the painful memories his father endured. Alan realizes how deep pain can drastically change someone. He also becomes aware that this incident happened partly because of his refusal to meet his family's expectations. As Westfeldt's anger grows uncontrollable, he sinks deeper into the darkness, fully consumed by demonic power. Realizing that his father can no longer be saved, Alan decides to destroy the source of Westfeldt's energy.
「燃えねえ」だとしたらやっぱりきゃいけないよね
ほら
直撃
囚われ僕も間違えていた。それはきっと弱さゆえも怒りに囚われることも同じ。父さん、僕に教えてくれて。
After the energy is eradicated, Westfeld regains his senses, but his life cannot be saved. As a reward for his heroic efforts in saving the city, the king bestows the title of Duke of Westfeldt upon Alan. However, Alan declines the title, wishing to lead a more peaceful life. Before leaving for the Grand Home region, Princess Lise arrives, requesting to join him under the pretense of wanting to improve her territory. She hopes Alan will take her along on his journey. When Alan slept, he found himself dreaming again, reliving the final moments before his reincarnation. In his dream, a woman wept before him, unable to bear the tragedy of his fate. Moments later, Alan awoke in a mansion managed by Lise. During breakfast, a guild officer arrived, assigning numerous tasks to Alan. The officer urged him to leave promptly, but his friends objected, as they already had plans involving him. In this situation, Alan reluctantly agreed to their wishes, one by one. After completing these matters, Alan announced his intention to journey toward the Empire. He stated that if he found a good place to settle, he would stay there. Noelle and Milan decided to join him, while Lise chose to remain to manage her territory. However, just as Alan and the others were about to depart, Lise had a change of heart and decided to join them, entrusting Beatrice with the responsibility of managing the territory. The journey to the Empire was far from easy. Access was highly restricted, forcing them to traverse rugged mountain paths filled with tremors. Along the way, they frequently encountered monsters that ordinary humans could not defeat. Yet, Alan handled every challenge with ease, as if nothing had happened. After some time, they reached the border. Though still far from the capital, the area was bustling compared to typical towns. However, Alan sensed a threatening atmosphere in the city, noting the unusually high number of guards. As they walked, they accidentally bumped into a girl named Henriette, the daughter of a marquis and an acquaintance of Alan from his previous life. Upon meeting, Henriette warned them to return home immediately, explaining that the Empire was facing a crisis capable of destroying the nation in an instant. After delivering her warning, Henriette abruptly left. Alan quickly pursued her, seeking answers, especially regarding why she was in this world. However, Henriette refused to reveal much and insisted Alan leave at once. Shortly after, a criminal caused an explosion in the city. When Alan attempted to stop him, the criminal died, and Alan was suspected of being the perpetrator. Alan tried to explain that he had acted in self-defense, but the guards did not believe him, accusing him of being a demon instead. Fortunately, before Alan could be arrested, Milan used her invisibility powers to rescue him and bring him to safety. By then, the entire city was on lockdown. In this precarious situation, Henriette suggested they stay at her house until things calmed down. Upon arriving at her home, Alan asked her about the current state of the Empire. Henriette explained that the Emperor had been assassinated, prompting heightened security throughout the city. That night, Henriette approached Alan as he gazed at the stars. Without hesitation, Alan pointed out that he knew she had been watching over him. Embarrassed, Henriette quickly returned to her room. She felt relieved, knowing that in Alan's previous life, he had been treated poorly as a hero. In this life, however, he was finally able to smile.
せめて幸せになれるように二度とあんな思い見守り続けたんです。ずっと。あと出会えて私は嬉しかったんです。それが私じゃなかった。
While at home, Noelle felt bored and restless. She whined about wanting to see a blacksmith or try forging a sword. Out of sheer boredom, she even pretended to forge a sword, though it was only in her imagination. Seeing Noelle's antics, Alan suggested that she go out to alleviate her boredom. He proposed that Noelle take a walk around the city with Milan. While strolling through the city, Noelle coincidentally encountered a group of elves. The elves stared at her intently, and some even tried to approach her. Worried that Noelle might be harassed, Millen quickly acted to keep her away from the elves. This incident made Noelle think she was so beautiful that it was only natural for the elves to be drawn to her. However, Anriot explained that there was another reason for their interest. To uncover the truth, Anriot invited Noelle and the others to visit the elves' forest, located in another dimension. Upon entering the depths of the elf forest,
の森です。場所は同じですよ。ちょっと次元。
エルフの森って外敵を警戒して
その通りです。存在が知れ渡らないよう森を去って。でもアンリエットには森に入る資格が与えられている。私の記憶がないのもそれで。可能性はあるんじゃねえ。
僕が気づけないほどの強力な結界をエルフだけで構築するでたり。
まあちょっとは手を貸してや。さっさと行くですよ。集落はこ。ノエル、どうかしたんですか？自分の居場所のように感じるというか、なんだかきっとノエルが生まれた森もこんな素敵な場所だったのでしょうね。あなたたちは。
The elves immediately surrounded Noelle, offering her their respect and greeting her with the words, "Welcome, the long-awaited king." Hearing herself referred to as a king, Noelle felt something was amiss. However, it seemed reasonable, as Noelle possessed a unique talent known as the Eye of the Fairy King. Accompanied by Percival, who held the title of Vice King, Noelle and her group were escorted to the elves' settlement. There, they were shown how the elves lived in the forest. While exploring, two elf children approached Noelle and gave her a gift. This gesture made the other elf children jealous because they didn't get the chance to approach their king like those two. Elsewhere, the guards began searching through Anriot's settlement, trying to find a way into the fairy forest to confirm the presence of a fugitive rumored to be hiding there. Meanwhile, Percival explained to Alan the importance of the king's presence for the elves. Without a king, the elves believed they could not grow or even reproduce. However, since Anriot's arrival, they had begun seeking alternative solutions to survive without a king. This included accepting other races into their group, such as the two demon children they had seen earlier. That night, Alan spoke with Anriot, curious about why she had asked the elves to shelter the demon children in their territory. Anriot explained that demons were not entirely a separate race. She had merely come across the children and could not bear to leave them behind. The next day, the two demon children approached Noelle again, this time giving her a precious fairy stone. Unfortunately, Philip, who was with them, threw the stone away, causing the two children to cry loudly. Feeling guilty about his actions, Philip was approached by Anriot in a narrow alley in the city. Just as they were about to return to the elf forest, a man suddenly appeared, pointing a weapon at them and forcing Philip to lead him to the forest. To welcome the arrival of their guests, the elves prepared a feast consisting of fruits. Alan and the others appeared to enjoy the meal, but Noelle seemed disinterested, as he preferred meat. After the meal, they received news that a child had left the forest and had not yet returned. Hearing this, Anriot immediately returned to her residence to search for the child. However, despite searching various places, the child was still nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, the other elves seemed indifferent to the situation. They lounged around as if nothing had happened. When Lise asked whether they had any concept of work, Percival explained that they didn't need to work because all their needs were already met. Moreover, their perception of the flow of time was different, making hard work seem meaningless to them. After hearing this, Alan asked if he could stay in the forest too. Percival explained that the forest had its own rules. If someone wanted to stay permanently, they had to be recognized as part of the forest. However, staying temporarily would not be an issue. Shortly after, Percival sensed the presence of an outsider entering the forest. Thinking it was his guest, he immediately left to investigate. While resting, Lisa asked Alan if he truly wanted to live in the forest. Alan said he had thought about it and felt that the place seemed comfortable to live in. Hearing this, Noelle and Millen also began to consider staying. Noelle saw an opportunity to gain new experiences from the blacksmiths in the Empire. Additionally, she could think about whether or not he would become the Fairy King. At the same time, a knight captain arrived at Anriot's house. After conducting various investigations, the knights suspected that Anriette was hiding a fugitive in the fairy forest. Initially, Percival thought the person entering the forest was his guest. However, it turned out to be a stranger from the Black Wolf Knight group. Percival tried to avoid conflict, but the intruder attacked first upon learning that the fairy forest sheltered demon children. Hearing the sound of an explosion, Noelle had a hunch that the two demon children were in danger, so she immediately set out to find them. On the other hand, Alan did not act immediately, feeling no obligation to save them as he was no longer a hero. However, after reconsidering, he decided to help them.
ノエルたちこういうことを考えたな。
おお、この子らに罪はない。うるせえよ、そのガキどもの職員。お前たち下がっていろ。貴様程度に遅れは取らん。はっ。さてと、その木で行ってみるか。バカな。格が違えんだよ。さて、どれから処刑してやろうか。おいガキ、何のつもりだ。一人ぶっ殺してやるよ。
Noelle lacked combat skills and could only buy time until Alan arrived.
ちょろちょろと果てろ。このままでは我らが王まで。
Not long after, Alan reached the scene. Using his unique abilities, he read the enemy's strength and neutralized their attacks before they could act. Once the opponent ran out of options to attack, Alan seized the opportunity to strike them from behind. With the blockade lifted, Anriette suggested that Alan and the others return to their original places, while she would handle the remaining issues. However, after the incident, Lisa felt that they shouldn't leave so abruptly. Considering all the help Anriette had given them, they should bid farewell in a proper manner. When they were about to board the train, a young man suddenly appeared, asking for help. The young man, named Cadiz, claimed to be Andrietto's younger brother and begged for their assistance to save his brother. Cadiz explained that Andrietto was being detained by the knights on charges of murdering the emperor, a suspicion believed to have originated from a noble who disliked him. However, Alan felt the request was too heavy for him. Moreover, he did not fully trust Cadiz, as Andrietto had previously mentioned that he was an only child. Therefore, Alan asked for time to consider the request. While discussing with his group, he became convinced that Andrietto was indeed being detained. He based this belief on his observations through his special abilities to confirm the truth. Alan then decided to investigate directly. Afterward, they returned to meet Cadiz and traveled to the capital on horseback. Along the way, Alan asked Cadiz if he was truly Anriette's brother. He also questioned how Cadiz knew they were Anriette friends. Cadiz explained that he actually came from a branch family, while Anriette belonged to the main family. Technically, they were cousins, but since childhood, Cadiz had considered Anriette an elder brother because Anriette always helped him when he was ostracized. As for how Cadiz knew they were Anriette friends, he admitted that it was merely by chance that he saw them together. Meanwhile, the knights who had captured Anriette were camping at a certain location. Despite the late hour, Anriette was still guarded by Rizedo, the commander of the group. During their conversation, Anriette asked Rizedo what had happened to Oswald, the man who had previously gone berserk in the forest. Rizedo explained that Oswald had been pardoned because they eventually managed to achieve their goal. While Alan and the others were restocking supplies in the city, the exits were suddenly blocked by the knights. To find out the cause, they decided to visit the Adventurers Guild. However, due to the conspicuous presence of an elf and an Amazoness, Cadiz suggested that Noelle and Millen wait at the inn. Walking alone with Alan made Lise extremely happy, but upon arriving at the guild, the atmosphere turned tense. Additionally, the adventurers there had no information about the blockade. Not long after, a member of the knights entered the guild. He had been tasked with looking for foreigners who had recently arrived in the city. Realizing that their group was likely the target, Alan and Lise quickly fled back to the inn. However, upon arriving, they were shocked to find that their friends had been captured by Oswald. With their friends as hostages, Oswald sought to demonstrate his superiority. He intended to exact revenge for how Alan had treated him in the elf forest. Even though his friends were in danger, Alan still faced the situation calmly. Before Oswald could attack Sandra, Alan quickly slashed his hand, freeing Noelle and Millen from his grasp. However, despite losing Sandra, Oswald still felt superior. He revealed that he had placed explosive magic on everyone and could detonate them at any time. This situation triggered Alan's memories of his previous life as a hero. At that time, even though he had saved many people, they still avoided him out of fear of his power. In his heart, Alan once thought he didn't need to save anyone, but his body moved on its own, as if unable to ignore people in danger. With quick and accurate movements, Alan severed all the magical threads before they could activate. After ensuring everyone was safe, he prepared to finish off Oswald. However, before he could do so, the Vice Knights appeared and stopped him. They asked Alan not to punish Oswald, as that was their duty as knights. Not long after the incident, they received news that the city's gate had been reopened. Elsewhere, for the time being, Anriette was imprisoned in a mansion. Although the atmosphere was gloomy, the place was far more decent compared to a prison cell. To pass the time, Anriette asked Rizitu to lend him a book to read. Meanwhile, Alan and his group had arrived at the capital's gate. Unfortunately, they were not allowed to enter because they did not have a permit or identification. Lise suggested digging a hole and passing under the city wall, but the plan was difficult as it would take a very long time. Cadiz then remembered the existence of a secret tunnel that could be used to avoid the guards. They decided to use the tunnel. However, inside the tunnel, they ran into knights. With Millen's invisibility powers, they managed to outwit the passing guards. Unfortunately, the ability was ineffective against Rizitu, who possessed sharp hearing. Rizitu detected their presence even though Millen's body was invisible. Rizitu declared that he did not intend to stop them, he only wanted to speak and deal directly with Alan. After the others left, Alan finally agreed to duel him one-on-one.
どっちでもお好きなように。
じゃあ
何度か隙があったのに僕の首何か理由があるのかな。
変な勘繰りは
Before the fight could reach its climax, the tunnel suddenly collapsed. Alan took advantage of the opportunity to escape using his teleportation ability. He successfully entered the building where Anriette was being held. However, when they met, Anriette refused to be rescued. As a high-ranking noble, he explained that they wouldn't dare execute him, so he asked Alan not to worry and to return home with his friends. Actually, Cadiz is the mastermind behind all of these problems. She accused Anriette killing the emperor, seizing the knight's authority, and even plotting Alan's assassination. Furthermore, Cadiz collaborated with the demons to gain power that transcends all limits. She did all of this to fulfill her desire to marry Anriette and meet the requirements to become emperor by leading the nation. Cadiz intended to take revenge on those who had hurt him in the past. Knowing about this plan made Anriette furious. She never imagined Cadiz had such a foolish ambition. Anriette firmly rejected Cadiz's plan and told him to carry it out herself without involving him. Meanwhile, Alan and his friends were on their way home. Although his friends accepted Alan's decision, the atmosphere still felt heavy as they had to leave Anriette behind in such a situation. To lighten the mood, they decided to rest for a while. In the prison cell, Anriette read a book about heroes. The book reminded her of the past when she was still a follower of the gods. At that time, she often observed heroes' journeys and helped them until the end of their struggles.
それは見返りを求めることなく存在。彼らが理不尽を打ち砕き、悲劇をかすいたです。でも一つだけ気に入らないことれる非業の死。それが世界の断りだと。彼らのような悲惨な最後だけは迎えさせねえために。そっちじゃねえです。右です。でも結末は変わらな。
Not long after, Cadiz returned to persuade Anriette to support his plans. This time, Cadiz threatened to execute her if she continued to refuse. However, Anriette still rejected him. This refusal angered Cadiz so much that the demon power within him began to awaken, making the situation even more dangerous. While resting, Lise urged Alan to return and save Anriette. Celia, who was the deputy commander of the Knights, also supported this decision. After hearing their thoughts, Alan finally decided to act. Using his teleportation ability, Alan went straight to the prison cell and saved Henriette from Cadiz. However, Cadiz, who had been possessed by a demon, could no longer be stopped with words alone. Alan was forced to fight him directly to destroy the demonic aura emanating from his body.
"まだ気づいてないの？アンリエットも鈍感だな。姉さんに話しかけるな!"
After successfully suppressing the demon power, Cadiz finally calmed down enough to talk. When Alan asked Cadiz about his true intentions, he answered that he wanted to become emperor. Alan then asked why he wanted to take his life when he was just an outsider with no connection to the empire. Cadiz could not answer that question. This made Alan realize his true objective. Cadiz did not truly want to become emperor. What he actually wanted was to have Henriette. His obsession had made him lose his sanity, even hurting those important to him. Upon realizing this, Cadiz broke down crying and regretted his actions. However, as Henriette tried to comfort him, the demon power once again possessed his body. With the situation becoming increasingly dangerous, Alan had no choice but to destroy Cadiz.
君が皇帝になろうが世界を支配しようが知ったこっちゃないけど、姉さんは俺のものだ。お前なんかに渡さない。力だ。
団長、リセット。
あの少年に一つ借りがあったっす。
俺に
何をしてるのか分かってるのか。
反逆行為っすけど。だったら一発ぐらい殴らせてもらおうと乱入さ。
お前ら全員俺の手でぶちかましてやる。しまいだ。そうだね、終わりにしようか。来て遠慮せずに全力出せるし、もう君のそばにアンビエットはいおのれ。ワールドエンド。カーティス、
まるでお前は一体何なんだ。
ただのアレンだよ、出来損ないのね。
その力があれば欲しいものを素として世界に君臨することも何だって叶えられただろう。やろうとしない。
もし僕が世界を手中に収めたとしたら、世界はそういう風にできているはずだから。だとか世界征服だとか、そういった類のことに一切興味ない。平穏な暮らしだけだから。
ずるいな。やめて。
With the end of this conflict, Henriette was freed from punishment and accusations. He could finally leave the empire alongside Alan and his friends. The scene concludes with Alan being able to live in peace.